several consecutive days, natural disasters and calamities have struck across China. Yuzhong County in Gansu Province was hit by heavy rains, triggering flash floods and landslides that created catastrophic conditions. 4 towns were ravaged by the floods, with some villages completely leveled, farmland buried, and many people missing. The Chinese authorities reported 10 deaths, 33 missing, and more than 4,000 people trapped. But given the government's history of concealing damage, the real numbers may be far worse. Local residents recounted that on that night, all houses and people were swept away, with no idea who the 2 missing persons were. Only scenes of devastation everywhere. The rain kept pouring, growing heavier, and torrents of muddy water surged through, uprooting trees and driving them into the mud. All houses, even 2-story ones, were destroyed. Pointing at the scene, villagers said, "This is all that's left. Everything has been flattened." The flash flood struck around 10 p.m. the night before, with heavy rain lasting more than 4 hours, submerging the entire area ahead. The worst hit was the home of a sheep farmer in the village, where many sheep were likely swept away. The floodwaters came so fast there was no time to save anything. Even thinking back now, the fear remains. Despite search and rescue efforts, nothing was found. One house was swept over 400 meters away, and cars were carried off by the current. The roads were completely destroyed, littered with debris on both sides, some overturned, some buried in piles of mud. Residents lamented that such a disaster might happen only once in a century. The floodwaters were not only massive, but also warm, with an exceptionally destructive force. Many areas have been devastated, and it is unclear whether any houses remain standing. Our restaurant's first floor was completely swept away. Nothing left at all, one resident said. Both sides of the road are full of wrecked cars. Some flipped over, some fell into the river, some twisted like fried dough sticks. It's truly a sight you can't bear to look at. In 1988, there was a major flash flood, but it was not as severe as this one. The floodwaters did not come from a single direction, but surged in from all the mountain slopes, striking without warning. No one had ever seen rain like this before. According to a report by China Youth Daily, one night in August, torrential rain poured down in Maliandan village, Yuzhong County. Resident Zhang Kehui recalled that Xinlialuan village was nearly flattened by the mud and rock flow. Many riverside houses vanished. Hundreds of acres of farmland were destroyed, leaving only floodwater, boulders, and rocks as large as cars. Cao Chiming, who has run a restaurant in the Xinglong Mountain tourist area for 17 years, said the first floor was completely washed away. Nothing left. Both sides of the road were strewn with wrecked vehicles, some overturned, some plunged into the river, some twisted into shapes like ropes. Liu, a resident of the county seat, said his elder sister, who lived in the disaster-stricken Maliandan area, is still missing. The last time he spoke to her was at 9 p.m. the night before. She had told him it was raining heavily. After that, he could no longer reach her. Her family of 4 lived right by the river. None of them made it out. Their house was completely swept away, and now the chances of survival are slim. He went to the scene himself. There was nothing left, all the houses flattened, and it was impossible to get in. When he arrived, he was completely devastated. Nearly all the riverside homes had disappeared, and the destruction was unbearable to witness. All communication equipment was down, electricity was out, and the roads were destroyed. The disaster in Yuzhong County was so severe that it shook Zhongnanhai. Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping stated that Yuzhong County, Gansu, and many other places had been hit by continuous heavy rainfall, triggering devastating flash floods that caused numerous casualties. Premier Li Qiang also announced that urgent rescue operations would be carried out. At the same time, a sudden torrential downpour struck Zhengzhou, Henan, submerging half the city within just a few hours. Traffic came to a standstill, and the Jingguang Tunnel turned into a river. Residents feared a repeat of the 7/20 disaster from 4 years ago. That day, the topic Zhengzhou heavy rain quickly shot to the top of online search rankings. Videos circulating online showed vast areas of downtown Zhengzhou submerged, with streets turned into raging rivers and many cars stalled in floodwaters. Several roads were underwater, and the Jingguang Tunnel, once submerged during the previous disaster, again became a scene of devastation. A survivor recounted that within just 10 minutes, The water had risen to the car windows, and the vehicle began to float. Everyone was terrified. Another witness recalled that around 1:30 a.m., when entering the tunnel, the water started to rise, flooding the section ahead. All vehicles behind had to turn around, and many broke down right on the spot. In many villages in Yuzhong County, Beijing, and Luli Miaotown, Huairu District, a massive flood and landslide struck on the night of July 26th, with many tourists and residents reported missing and slim chances of survival. From August 5, some villages began allowing residents to return and clean up their homes, but victims who had lost their livelihoods remained worried about the cost of rebuilding. In several villages where residents have returned, power and communications have been restored, but the water supply is still unsafe for drinking. The water company has been sending tanker trucks to deliver water. People have been clearing mud on their own. The mudslide had buried even two-story buildings. While digging, they found a body, placed it in a black plastic bag, and took it away. The number of people unaccounted for remains high, and once someone goes missing, there is a 98% chance they will not survive. This flood in Miyun was described as a once-in-a-century disaster, destroying houses, submerging streets, and leaving many villages in ruins. When the waters receded, thick mud covered the ground. The air was heavy with dampness, and broken tree branches and collapsed houses were everywhere. On the 11th day after the flood, returning to the village revealed scenes far more shocking and unimaginable than expected. At the time of the disaster, there was no water, electricity, or phone signal, and residents still faced the threat of further landslides and mud flows. It was heartbreaking. One car had been swept into the river during the flood and now lay abandoned in the village. Rebuilding homes will take a long time. A house that once had 4 rooms was reduced to just 1, with the foundation hollowed out and both the living room and bedrooms destroyed. In Luli Miaotown, Huairu District, Beijing, after being hit by an exceptionally severe flood and mudslide, many areas were reduced to rubble, with numerous tourists and villagers missing, including a family of 3 at the Rock Antelope Valley Rain Campground. Relatives searched tirelessly alongside rescue teams, combing the riverbed to check if anyone was trapped, trying to identify the owners of vehicles suspected to have been swept away, leaving no detail overlooked. During the search, they discovered a photograph and an electric scooter charging card that could be traced to its owner, along with a phone number printed on it. The floodwaters showed no mercy. That night, the water rose rapidly. In the courtyard where some workers lived, there were still 2 elderly people in their 60s and a 3-year-old child who hadn't managed to get out. The water had already entered the yard, and the main gate was impassable because everything below was submerged. They had to wait in the darkness, hearing only the roar of the river, the sound of collapsing walls, shattering objects, and vehicles being destroyed. A sense of despair hung over them as the water crept higher and higher, yet dawn had not come. Fortunately, the rain had eased by then. Otherwise, the place would not have been safe. Residents revealed that the disaster zone reeked of a strong, fishy odor. Even in higher areas that weren't flooded, the constant water release from the downstream Miyun hydropower reservoir made the humidity extremely high, and houses were covered in mold. Repairs and reconstruction would be costly, and residents who had lost their livelihoods were deeply worried, only hoping to restore their rice fields soon so they could have food to eat. All water sources had turned yellow, undrinkable, and unsuitable for bathing. The roads were gone, and almost all trees had disappeared. In just a few days, all vegetable gardens would be washed away, leaving no greens to eat, not even soil to plant them in. The mountains had been struck by mudslides, piling up rocks, while houses and belongings were swept away entirely. The river had changed course, windows were shattered, and everything inside was gone. Although natural and man-made disasters were striking repeatedly across the country, the Chinese Communist authorities were preoccupied with maintaining stability. As the September 3rd military parade approached, the atmosphere in Beijing grew tense. Grass and trees seemed frozen, and even the wind made people uneasy. The Tiananmen area and its surroundings came under traffic and airspace control. Even the usually bustling shops on Wangfujing had to close early. The authorities mobilized hundreds of thousands of people, including temporary security staff and retirees, To ensure security, patrol at night, and watch for and report any unusual activity. At present, Beijing is enveloped in an atmosphere of fear. Chang'an Avenue, the city's political and transportation hub, running through Tiananmen Square, the central government offices, and the diplomatic district, has become a primary control zone. One netizen even filmed themselves being stopped and searched while riding a bicycle along Chang'an Avenue.